Seems like I'm always doing something. Traveling, creating, working on myself. But now that I'm out here solo traveling for the first time, I'm realizing how loud silence can be and how much it can teach you if you let it. For those of y'all that have been keeping up with the content, you know I've been traveling for the past 18 months with my partner Ellie Jane, from California to Japan to the Philippines to Bali, Thailand, etc. We've been in Thailand for the past couple months, but I'm now actually in Thailand all by myself. And I'm actually in Koh Samui right now. I'm not sure if y'all have heard of Koh Samui, but it's actually in southern Thailand. And it's been getting a lot of attention recently because, again, not sure if y'all have heard of the show White Lotus or not, but its most recent season was filmed in Koh Samui. So it's been getting a lot of attention for that reason. Yeah, man, Ellie Jane had some business to handle back home in Canada. And, I could have easily tagged along, but I just felt like it wasn't my time yet. And it would have been the easier route, but I didn't want to dismiss myself of this opportunity. Just really being able to hone in on myself and maybe work on things that I haven't had the opportunity to work on before. It's something I always talk about in a lot of my videos is, seeking discomfort. And of course, me traveling with her alongside me for the past 18 months and then kind of like now just being completely alone, there is a certain level of discomfort that comes with that, but it isn't something that I just wanted to dismiss. I wanted to really embrace the opportunity and see what could come out of it. So yeah, man, I'm gonna be alone for the next 6 weeks and I think it's gonna be super interesting. I spend more time with myself than I ever have throughout my life. And I'm sure there are gonna be a lot of things that come to surface, but I'm prepared for them and I look forward to them. And I'm not gonna overlook any of these things. I think I'm in this state of like seeking them because I know on the other side is a better version of myself, if you will. That being said, I am definitely committed to being as organized and as efficient as possible with this time. And I don't want to take any of this time for granted. And I really do seek to get as much out of this experience as I can. If y'all been rocking with me, you know that the primary goal with this channel is to encourage ways that we can all develop ourselves and cultivate habits that contribute to developing and sustaining a well-rounded lifestyle. And I'm going to use this time of solitude to do just that. In essence, solitude is the state of being alone, which can either be a positive or negative experience depending on the individual. But you guys know it's something I talk about in my videos a lot. Whatever we focus on expands. And the way that I see it, I have two options. Option A, I can consciously focus on myself and find ways to develop myself through reflection. Or option B, I can feel isolated and lonely. I'm going with option A. Want to hear this anymore about Koh Samui having no peace and quiet. Okay, bro, look where I'm at. Absolutely nobody here. Well, I guess there are a few people, I just can't see them. There's my bike and then there's some other bikes. So I was just looking for some places to film some content. The one videographer that I was working with suggested this one spot, but again, super deep. Like you had to go to the deep end on this island, bro, because where I'm staying there's quite a bit of tourists and whatnot, but out here it's super raw. You don't see any tourists at all, literally just locals. There's just like this little, I don't even know what you call this, like this abandoned little cabana house. It almost looks like an unfinished project. Like, y'all, check this out. Look at this, bro. This looks lit, bro. I feel at such peace right now. Like we in the jungle, right by all of this water. It's interesting. I feel like as a man, I've either been directly or indirectly conditioned to, power through certain forms of discomfort, pertaining to emotion, as opposed to, really trying to become familiar with what it is that's actually going on inside. But by consciously setting time aside to get into nature and to, realign with myself, it's crazy the immense amount of clarity that I've received from making the effort to be still and to understand what I've given my energy to thus far in my life and what I will continue to devote my energy to going forward, and understanding why. And you also begin to get a much clearer understanding of the impact of your environment, because our environments can either charge us or drain us. So you understand not only want around you, but what you need around you. And I think by allowing yourself to be still, you develop a much better understanding of your own mental patterns. But it's not about detaching from people by any means, right? It's just about reconnecting with yourself. Because don't get me wrong, I'm completely aware of the fact that as human beings, we are social creatures and we thrive off of human connection. But I also do feel as though we operate in seasons. And this particular season is the season of solitude. And through that, there are a lot of opportunities that you can take advantage of. Because I just feel like being still isn't encouraged in our society. You know, we live in a society who we almost like compete to be the busiest. I see it all the time. Entrepreneurs and, you know, business owners who flaunt their Google calendars where it's just flooded with meetings. And I don't understand how that's a flex. What good is a Google calendar that's filled with meetings if you have no time to be able to do what you actually want to do? I don't know, man. That's just my perception. I think there's so much power in, you know, being still and allowing yourself to think thoughts and observe them without judging them, not labeling them as good or bad, but just observing them, understanding them, becoming intimate with them. And by developing a stronger sense of clarity, you now cultivate a stronger sense of awareness within yourself. I think one of the key things that I've been able to reveal to myself thus far has been the fact that I do have a tendency to overthink. I think a lot of us do, but a lot of us don't understand why. So just, again, observing those mental patterns and reminding myself that, you know, it's okay to turn it off. Like, you can turn it off now. Understanding when and how to turn it off, because oftentimes overthinking comes from, you know, either self-doubt, fear, just negative vibrations, right? But again, as I allowed myself to observe those thoughts, it wasn't a matter of me judging myself by any means and feeling bad about the fact that a lot of these mental habits were coming from negative places, so to speak. So not dwelling on that for too long and using that energy that would have been directed at, you know, feeling bad, quote unquote, into propelling myself forward instead. And also being completely transparent with yourself and understanding that when you are overthinking, it's because you have a lack of control of your own mind. You need to first identify where the errors are and what is the root cause of these errors. Again, is it self-doubt? Is it fear? You know, a lack of self-concept. You can't heal a wound that you don't first acknowledge. I think we all need dedicated times throughout our days to just do absolutely nothing and to be okay with doing absolutely nothing and becoming more comfortable with the idea of boredom. You know, because if we're not working, we're eating. And if we're not eating, we're watching something. If we're not watching something, we're listening to something. We're just always occupied with something. So how can we expect to be in balance emotionally if we don't consciously make the effort to bring ourselves back to balance by turning it off? And in doing so, you reveal so many answers to yourself that you didn't even know you were looking for. And how gratifying that is, right? Solitude is one of the few things in life that doesn't lie to you. It acts as a mirror, right? Because there's nothing to distract you from your own mental patterns if you allow yourself to be receptive to them and not shy away from your own thoughts. So I hope you can take some time to really be still, to find the clarity within yourself and stop feeling like you have to look outside of yourself for answers. Don't get me wrong, I'm not out here saying like, bro, like you need to come into nature and, you know, just meditate all day, sit on a rock like this and do nothing. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying. It's just about balance. Action is a important aspect of, you know, creating our desired realities, but it's one component, not the entire thing. Thank you, brother.
You're welcome.
And Koh Samui is known to be very busy and a little chaotic. So it might seem maybe not the best place to get some peace and quiet, right? When we talk about the concept of solitude. But if you make the effort, you can really find some amazing beauty out here. And bro, just tap back in with this nature, bro. Some of the best that I've seen. Y'all, this has to be some of the most incredible scenery ever. Like, take this in, man. Like, just look at this. Mama Nature's loving her child right now, and her child's loving her right back. Believe that. I feel so in tune, man. Go get you some nature. You know, man, there are so many different things that being alone can force you to face. You know, whether it's a trip for a few days or, like in my case, for 6 weeks. But more than anything, I feel as though it gives you a mirror. And it's not like it's a mirror that you can't get access to. It's like there are a lot of things you think you might know about yourself, but it's almost like, you know, a foggy mirror after you take a shower. Like I guess you can kind of see some of these things about yourself, but it's like wiping off that mirror just brings so much more clarity. Like you see so much more. And I feel like I was very intentional about achieving that during my time out here alone. And I do feel as though I have been able to achieve that. After now experiencing, you know, like solo traveling and whatnot, I do think any person could find so much benefit in an experience like this. And you know, I mean, Koh Samui is cool, but there are a lot of like tourists and families and, you know, people partying, and you know how people are when they're on vacation, right? Like they're just go, 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 go. So having more meaningful conversations is of course gonna be a lot more rare. But I think, you know, me being in the complete opposite energy, like helped serve its purpose in being around that. It really forced me to be even more dependent on myself. You know, in a place where there are a lot more people who live on a similar frequency to myself, like Koh Phangan, you know, where we just were, if y'all seen in the last video, one of my favorite places, and it's only 20 minutes away from Koh Samui. I could have very easily went over to Koh Phangan, where it was a lot more familiar, chopped it up with a lot of the friends that I made out there, but it would have completely just missed the opportunity that I was presented with, and I didn't want to just resort back to my comfort zone, you know what I mean? But of course, being out here just makes me reflect on, you know, where I want to base, because I am super grateful to be remote and to be able to travel, but it's like, where do I want to be? It just has me thinking about that even more. So I guess that's my next goal, is to really develop a stronger sense of clarity in that regard. You know, when you have more time and space, like what is it that you do with that time, right? For me in particular, I spend a lot more time, you know, just being creative. Anybody who knows me knows how much I love to freestyle dance. You know, I feel like dancing is the perfect breed between being an artist and being an athlete. I think as humans, like we find so much fulfillment in being creative and expressing ourselves creatively. I think that's what we were born to do. So being able to realign with myself in that sense has just like awakened my inner child, like again, a way that I haven't felt in such a long time. So you can't even describe the amount of fulfillment that comes from that. You know, there's definitely a conscious adjustment required when you're without a feminine energy. Like, bro, I've had a feminine presence in my life all my life, you know? So to be without it, like there's definitely some adjusting that's required. But I think that is where all the value lies, is in your ability to adapt to new environments. And that's why I always say and encourage people to travel if you can, you know what I'm saying? And like really make the effort to make it happen, because traveling is, yes, of course, like it's fun, but that's not all that it is. It tests your ability to adapt to new environments and to make all these new environments your home, so to speak. Because every place that you get to will have its pros and cons, but you know, what's gonna consume your attention? Like the cons or the pros? You know, it really forces you to develop a positive mindset wherever you go. And I feel like I've really enhanced my ability to be able to do that out here. I've loved the opportunity to see how quickly I can adapt to new situations, because it really makes you think, like, are you gonna distract yourself from the thoughts that inevitably will come to surface, or are you gonna face them for what they are and look them in the eye? Because I think that's where a lot of the growth comes from, and what a lot of people tend to neglect, because it can be uncomfortable, of course it can. But by becoming comfortable with the thoughts that make you feel uncomfortable is when you begin to evolve. And you know, with all that being said, like I know I'm shedding a lot of light on all the positive benefits from, you know, being alone and spending time alone, but I definitely miss my homie, Lil Ellie, and I'm super stoked to reconnect with her again. For those of y'all that have been keeping up with the content, y'all know that she radiates that positivity and happiness. And yeah, so I think it's gonna be amazing when we reconnect again. But I think, because you know, like that's my person, and I know that by me being vulnerable and transparent with myself to my fullest capacity, I am now becoming a better person for my person. So there's a lot of security that comes from that. Just knowing that you're doing all that you can to not only be the best that you can be for yourself, but for the people that you love around you. You develop a lot of self-esteem and self-security from that, because you know that you're doing all that you can to be the best person that you can be, right? Truthfully, like to the core. And I will tell y'all, when we do reconnect, it won't be in Thailand. I won't tell y'all where it's gonna be just yet. Y'all gonna have to stay tuned for that. But it's gonna be somewhere super dope, and I'm stoked for that. But I really do hope that you can find some time to reconnect with yourself. Make time for yourself the same way that you make time for your friends and your family. It's so rare that we make time for ourselves consciously. And if we do, like, it kind of just happens. It's not something that we consciously make time for, but there's a drastic difference, right? When you consciously make time for yourself and when you kind of just find time in between your responsibilities and your schedule, it's completely different, right? So I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're finding ways to develop a stronger relationship with yourself, because in doing so, there's so much fulfillment that comes from within, and then as a result, without as well, from outside of you. But a lot of us, we have these tendencies to try and find fulfillment outside of ourselves, which is the worst thing that you can do. Because when you can commit to finding peace and happiness within yourself, you don't need anything. And as a result, you'll have way more clarity on what it is that you want to devote your energy to. I love y'all so much, man. I will catch y'all in the next video. It is KT.